message. We'll keep a tally of who's asked. But not sure we see any turnout yet. So is that, is that, we have one in the WebEx, just says 333 co. Is that okay? Can you write your name in there? Because the WebEx just your login doesn't have your name on there. Great. Okay. Thanks, Corey. Just so you know, we're gonna have some prepared remarks from folks here. We're at the from Hawaiian Electric Light Company, Shannon Matson from the Sierra Club, and then you'll be first up after that. And just so other the folks joining know, we are recording. This is being broadcast live on our YouTube channel. Will be recorded, put up on the commission website. Other question, Mike, do you have who's going to drive the PowerPoint presentation? You have it? Oh, we received it earlier. That's right.
I have it. Yep. It's ready to go.
Here we go. Shelly. Oh, I see Dean. Hi, Dean. Where's Dean?
Good evening, Chair. Just listening in.
Come on, you don't want to speak up?
I'm here to listen to the community comments and suggestions.
Okay, so are we. You can type in the chat, though, if you want. Okay. Yeah, I think we'll wait probably till about 5:35 to get started. And as those who filter in, if you wish to speak tonight, just in the chat, say that you wish to speak and put your name in, and we'll keep a running list. Okay, we're gonna get started in about a minute. Thanks everyone for joining us. Just a reminder, if you wish to speak after the folks have already been designated, please type into the chat and we'll keep a running tally. A few more people have filtered in here, so thank you. Okay, got word that I guess some of the organizers have had trouble logging in. So I think we will, Mr. Wallerstein is working on that. I think we will try and wait, but I did see Shannon Matson, you're speaking on behalf of the Sierra Club tonight. Can we check your video and audio?
Yes, yeah, I'm here. Thank you.
Great, thanks. Just a reminder, anyone else, if you do wish to speak, please type into the chat. Okay, I think Mike, did you have a chance to reach Deborah Ward?
I don't know if
did-
Debbie, sorry to interrupt. I don't know if Debbie was going to be able to join us because she was traveling. So that's partly why I'm speaking on behalf of the Hawaii Island Sierra Club group. So if we're just waiting on her, it might be okay for us to proceed.
Okay, thank you. I did want to acknowledge we have Council Member Richards here. Good evening, Council Member. Do you like an opportunity to speak?
Thanks. Thank you for the invitation. And yeah, we can say a few words going forward once we get everybody on the line. I appreciate that. And yeah, I did have a bit of trouble logging in. If the link didn't work, but if I went to the WebEx and then used the meeting number and then the password, then I was able to get on.
Okay, thank you for that. Council Member, maybe I think the order we have right now, the commission will start with some introductions. We have Hawaiian Electric light going, Sierra Club has a presentation, and maybe if you want to make some remarks after that, and then we have members of the public queued up after that.
Sure, that sounds great.
Thank you. Okay, I think with that we'll get started. Let's see. WebEx doesn't copyright. Let me look at our host here. Mike, is there anything we can put up to try and redirect people?
I can post the link into the chat. I don't know if that'll help, but I've just
not for those
resent
that
it
haven't got
directly.
in.
Yeah, I can send it directly to email, which is what I did for Debbie. And if anyone else needs it, I can resend that.
We may have to rely on virtual word of mouth here. So if you know of others that are wanting to log in, please contact Mike and get the updated instructions. But I think given the time, everyone's evening here, we'll get started. So thank you all for being here. We did want to start with we were asked a short introduction from the commission. I'm Jay Griffin, the chair of the Hawaii PUC. I've been on the commission since 2017 and chair since 2019. This program is one of the many programs we've been working on. It came at the direction of the legislature. We've done a first phase, many lessons learned from that, and in the past year and a half, we've been incorporating those into design of the second phase. So there's been a lot of work in progress, but at the same time, in the course of that, we've heard a variety of community concerns and received these requests to come speak to the commission, come speak with Hawaiian Electric, hear some further about community concerns, and see how those can be incorporated into the final design. So we have taken that opportunity. We held a meeting at which some of you were at to listen. Actually, going back some, we held a meeting for the Molokai community. We've actually received letters from Lanai. Those processes have moved forward. We held a meeting, was it last week? It's all kind of a blur, but a very recent meeting to listen to folks from West Oahu. We received a request from Hawaii Island here. So we're here tonight. This is new territory for our commission. So please bear with us both technologically and just through our processes. But we do very much want to listen. We want to incorporate what we can into the program. But we do have a imperative to both a legislative one and just one to broaden access to clean energy throughout the community. And so I think we want to take this feedback and update the current form of the RFPs and look to put those out and move forward with the next phase. So thank you all for being here. I want to turn over to my colleague. We'll go through colleagues, Commissioner Potter and then Commissioner Sunsian.
Great. Good evening, and thank you, Chair. Appreciate everyone for being here today and providing us with an opportunity to hear from you. I am a Neighbor Island Commissioner. I currently reside in Maui, and I do take seriously my responsibility to consider the neighbor islands and representing them in the work that we do at the Commission. And so in doing so, I believe that this community engagement process is incredibly invaluable and helps us break from the convention of previous commissions and even just, regulatory bodies in general of how we hear from our constituents and incorporate feedback and lessons learned into the decision making. And so the information that you'll provide to us tonight not only provides us with an opportunity to reflect upon that and potentially make changes to the RFP, as Chair mentioned, but also just to get a glimpse and gauge the temperature of your community and how responsive it is to community-based renewable energy in a way that we haven't had an opportunity to in the past. So thank you so much for being here. I really encourage you to speak up and to participate in this thought exchange, and looking forward to a great discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Sunsian.
Good afternoon, Leo Sunchen, Commissioner in the PUC. Been on for the past 2 years, but prior to that, I was the State Planning Director and an Administrator in the Office of State Planning. Have over 30 years of experience in the planning realm, all types of planning. So these community meetings and input sessions are no stranger to me. It is a rare thing for the commission itself. It's not set up to be more of the planning, but more of the regulatory arm. We have other agencies in the state that work with HELCO and HECO that does part of the planning and the community input. So we're here today to listen. Hopefully what I hope to hear is some workable solutions to move this project along. As the chairman said, right, we are bound by a statutory requirement to get this program up and running. So, and right now, what we really need is the workable, feasible solutions to get that to square one.
Thank you, commissioners. And just to maybe a couple items before we get started tonight. Purpose of the meeting is for the commission to listen to ideas to improve in community engagement in this program. Commission may require changes to the proposed RFPs based on our feedback here. I do want to note, and again, this is a novel format for us, but we do have to be careful in what types of feedback we receive. You know, we're asking you to stay focused on the community-based renewable energy program, any other open commission dockets, but particularly two particular topics on Hawaii Island, the Huhanoa project and the pending application for the Puna Geothermal Ventures expansion are topics that procedurally we're not allowed to be talking about here. So I'm sorry if we do have people commenting on that. I will have to interject and ask you to stay focused on the community solar program. So just hopefully you understand that. We're not trying to be rude, but we are trying to be fair to everyone and all the different proposals that come before us. So with that, I think we will now turn it over to, let's see, we have Jennifer Zelko from Hawaiian Electric Light Company.
Mahalo, Chair Griffin. I hope you folks can hear me okay. Thank you so much to the PUC commissioners. We really appreciate you folks creating this opportunity to hear from our Hawaii Island community. And thank you also to the Hawaii Island community and leaders that I see on this call. And of course, also those calling in from our neighbor islands. Thank you for making the time and providing your valuable input. My name is Jennifer Zelko. I'm the Director of Government and Community Affairs for Hawaiian Electric here on Hawaii Island. Because each island and each community is so unique, your input helps us to understand the perspectives and priorities of each of our communities. At Hawaiian Electric, we are working to help build sustainable communities and create opportunities. Several years ago, to help meet the state's clean energy and decarbonization goals, we moved forward with large renewable energy procurements. We also recognized that we wanted to provide more options for our customers. And since 2015, we've been working hard to implement community-based renewable energy, which we also call shared solar. We have heard from communities that it is important to have options for community participation, and we do believe this program allows for that. We have learned, and Chair Griffin mentioned this, we've learned quite a few lessons along the way, and we continue to learn. We are here to serve our communities, and we know that we don't have all of the answers. The community voice is going to help us improve the process and policies as we seek more renewable energy projects on these islands. Again, tonight, we really are here to listen to you. I think the most successful solution is going to be based on collaboration and partnerships and working together. And that's how we do it in these islands. I think it's how we become more sustainable. It helps the company. It's going to help the County of Hawaii, our policymakers, as we address the needs of these different communities. It leads to solutions that are fair, equitable, and practical for all. And if we are given the opportunity, we'd like to find solutions that can be addressed in the CBRE request for proposals, while balancing the need to quickly launch the program. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We can now go to the presentation prepared by Sierra Club and Shannon Matson to speak. I think we checked, we've got Shannon in here and everything was working okay.
Thank you. Yes, and thanks for pulling up those slides. Aloha, Chair, commissioners, and HELCO representative. We're very grateful for the opportunity to be able to speak with the commissioners and the energy company about our questions and concerns today. My name is Shannon Matson. I'm here speaking on behalf of the Hawaii Island Group Sierra Club. And just a quick personal note, I'm particularly interested in this program as I live in a very large rural subdivision area called Hawaiian Acres. We have about 4,000 parcels in this subdivision. It's located in Ola'a, also known as Mountain View or Upper Puna. And while we can proudly brag about our 75 miles of mostly unpaved roads, we also have almost all of our residents living off grid. They're either relying on some form of solar, a generator, or some of us are grid tied and doing either net metering or another program with Helco. We can move on to the next slide. Our entire island community has some experience with renewable energy projects, including geothermal, wind, hydroelectric, solar, and we are aware that biomass burning has been proposed as well. There have been extended community opposition. These communities in close proximity to those facilities have had to contend with decisions being made by developers, Helco, and the PUC that affect their health, quality of life, safety, and cost of living. And the island of Hawaii is unique, as those of us who live here know, that the land area and distances are far greater than the other neighboring islands. Solar installations that are going onto most of the new homes, the subdivisions are really filling in, especially because East Hawaii is less expensive than other parts of the state and of Hawaii Island. We're concerned that the further we send the energy, the more we're losing. So if the line loss is significant, there's no major advantage to increasing the voltage unless you can make increases in the voltage and amperages as well. Also, as I mentioned before, many people in my area in particular are going off grid. They're moving here and they are not paying the electric company. And others are installing solar systems that feed into the grid. So they're receiving discounts or paying less to Helco, which means a diminishing number of people are left paying traditional electric bills. So as the company needs to do, they raise their rates to cover their costs. The visitor industry wants electric infrastructure with enough capacity to handle sudden large influxes of visitors, but when visitor numbers drop, as we saw during the pandemic, the industry is then paying lower rates, and yet the company must still pay to maintain that infrastructure. This creates an inherent inequality if resident ratepayers are bearing the burden of static infrastructure costs. We can move on to the next slide, please. With regard to the CBRE proposals for solar installations on the island of Hawaii, we'd like to share the following ideas and questions. As you can see on the slide, I'm not going around directly with this slide. We had a lot of these questions answered from a presentation we had the other day, and we see that some of this is in the RFP. These are just some things for consideration. But what I wanted to cover was that our group believes that upfront consultation with neighbors and surrounding community with active notification and outreach efforts is critical in avoiding challenges and litigation moving forward. Energy development choice should be adapted to each community situation. Perhaps seeking a consent-based approach could mitigate challenges communities have with developers that make promises without any accountability to be able to follow through. We recognize that it is impossible to give full information about the potential savings to subscribers up front, but we do believe that an estimated range in savings would be useful in promoting the CBRE program. We are concerned about the potential for competition between the community developer and Helco in this proposal process, even though we are aware of the stated firewall between Helco Selection Group and the Helco Development Group. We believe that the utility should incentivize independent power production and community ownership through prioritizing these projects, exemptions, and discounts, and not be in competition. We're concerned about the potential for roadblocks, including extended delays in providing information, as has happened in the past. So we'd like to see really clear timelines and deadlines be established and followed throughout. Next slide, please. We are anticipating that in time, with larger battery storage availability and capacity, Helco wouldn't need peak generation, as battery farms could provide voltage support, which would smooth out the power. So we would like to see RFPs that include battery storage be supported. We would like developers to prioritize the ethical manufacture and sourcing of those materials that are going to be utilized. This next point, I believe, is especially crucial: the process to bond the decommissioning plan. For example, part of the RFPs could be required an an advanced disposal fee that goes towards programs to recycle and decommission solar panels that are no longer operating at peak capacity. We believe that this is especially important because we are currently battling with landfill capacity issues and also seeing a lot of our original solar projects coming to an end of their usable life cycle now. What is going to happen to all of this trash? We see decommissioning plans are potentially part of the environmental impact section, but we believe it needs to be highlighted and it should be a crucial part of these programs if we're really looking to the future and truly want to be able to create sustainable energy and reduce our carbon footprint. This next part's not on the slide, but after reviewing your 12 non-price evaluation criteria, we have some concerns that environmental compliance and permitting and cultural resource impacts are much lower on the list and not included with the first 6 items that are being counted for twice as much in your scoring. We'd like to recommend prioritization of including both the environmental compliance and cultural resource impacts into the top 6 items to be weighed as doubly important. When we're discussing something called both community and renewable in the name of the project, and the stated goal by the legislator in creating this program originally is to allow all residents to enjoy the benefits of renewable energy and to reduce greenhouse gases while allowing more access to affordable clean energy programs, it seems that environmental concerns should be higher up on this list. So while some of the environmental concerns and cultural impacts will surely be brought up under community outreach, which we appreciate seeing at the top of that list, we think each of these other 2 items deserves its own inclusion at the top of the list of evaluation criteria as well. The biggest resistance to renewable energy projects in our past on our island, as you well know, are due primarily to environmental and cultural concerns. So we feel that by adding those items towards the top of your list, it will help with community buy-in and allow these programs to truly be successful. Also within the environmental compliance, we'd like to see weighted evaluation criteria for different types of land use, rooftop versus lava versus a green field that could be used for agricultural conservation, etc. Oh, and I'm so sorry, please go to the last slide. This is just kind of a review that we're echoing the concerns that West Oahu brought up, and I'll let you guys read through that. And then I just have one closing point to make. Thank you so much for bearing with this long presentation. I know it's kind of wordy, but the last thing I would like to say is that we would like to see the PUC be a force in providing overall planning that not only coordinates projects around energy demand, but is also a force for conservation and social justice for communities in the energy question, the big energy question that we all have. And we see our lower socioeconomic communities have already borne the burden of airport overflights, touch and go landings, landfill, quarries, industrial facilities that pollute, sewage treatment plants, polluted coastal waters, the list goes on, housing displacement by tourist operations, etc. So let us please make sure that development of solar energy projects provide a net benefit, not another burden. Mahalo nui.
Thank you, Ms. Matson. Thank you for putting that together. I do want, so I just want to reiterate, we have at least 3 people that have asked to speak in the chat. Just a reminder, if you wish to speak, please note that in the chat box here. I did see some people on the phone. After we go through the chat, we'll check with you if you wish to speak. Another reminder, please stay focused on CBRE program. As the first speakers have, we appreciate that. And with that, we Councilmember Richards, if you still wish to speak, want to give you an opportunity here.
Thank you so much, Chair Griffin. And first of all, I'd like to really thank the PUC for putting this forward and doing the community outreach and gleaning that that involvement of the community going forward and getting the, I think the term was used, pulse of what the community is thinking. To the point, Ms. Matson brought up some very valid concerns and questions that I'd like to echo a few on that. And first of all, we're talking about Outer Island. I appreciate you bringing this to the Outer Island. On County Council, I'm the chair of Agriculture, Water, Energy, and Environmental Management. And so some of the things touched on tonight ring very, very true for my concerns. The engagement, first of all, the local engagement. I represent North Hawaii, which is District 9, and we even take it not just to the district, but to the community in and itself. And I'll touch on that in just a little bit, but the Kohala district is very different or region than the Waikoloa district or the Waimea district. So having that specific regional input is critically important. Another thing I do appreciate in some of the comments that Ms. Matson made, and previously, we're talking about Helco, or I guess Hawaiian Electric now, and I was appreciative of the fact that they're willing to come to the table and listen and get the involvement. To the point on the solar panels and batteries for that matter, we're talking about infrastructure. And I am deeply concerned about end-of-life management of these infrastructures. We're talking rare earth metals, and as I chair environmental management as well, what is going to happen to this equipment? So this must be examined and figure out how we're going to go forward. And again, of course, cost is always critically important as we go through this. Borrowing a comment from a previous mayor, Kim, he said, one of the problems about the Big Island is it's very big. We have a lot of need for infrastructure and the cost of that going forward. Now, one of the things, and I'll just kind of wrap up with this, and I appreciate it, this was something that then Helco we're working on North Kohala. And North Kohala is probably different than most of the rest of the island in the fact that its electrical service is basically on the end of a wire. It's not part of a circle. And we went through several years of hearings to discuss this. And long and short of it, with community input, it has been decided that we're going to strive and go for a regional microgrid. And I think this makes the most logical sense, and no need to go in all the details of that. But again, that decision was made because of several things. I think number one is cost of the infrastructure going in, as well as community input and what the community was concerned about going forward. So once again, Chair, thank you so much for the opportunity to say a few words. Appreciate you bringing this to the Outer Islands and asking the communities that are going to be affected by these what their feelings are going forward. So with that, Chair, I yield.
Thank you, Council Member. Always appreciate your time and input into our commission proceedings. It's all very valuable. If our next speaker, now we'll move to those who have requested to speak. The first three, Corey Hardin, then Ron Riley, and then Nathaniel Kinney. Again, if anyone else wishes to speak after that, please say so in the chat. We'll go through again.
Chair, I'm on the call-in right now.
Okay,
Am I coming through?
Yes, you are, but we're we're going to go to the phones after we run through the chat here. So hopefully you can.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to let you know my name is Jeffrey Akamine, and I'm a community member and electrical engineer that graduated as Outstanding Bachelor of Science of UCLA.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Akamine. Got you. We've got, yeah, we'll have you on the list after we run through the WebEx. And again, our focus tonight is the CBRE program with a particular
Understood,
focus
but after being presented the on the ground situation, I think I just formed a technological solution that might be able to solve all the problems.
Okay, Mr. Akamine, if we can, we're going to go through those who have asked to speak first. As just a reminder to everyone in the WebEx here. The focus here is the CBRE program, RFPs before us, with a particular focus on Hawaii Island. So with that, if we could go to Mr. Hardin.
Hi, Ms. Corey Hardin from Hilo. I'm a member of the Sierra Club Hawaii Island Group, but just speaking for myself tonight. Really appreciate you guys doing this listening and planning for renewable energy. I hope we'll take care that projects will be genuinely renewable and sustainable and community friendly. One thing I think we want to avoid is a big company that has multiple shell companies that shield them from liability in case things go wrong. I think we also want to avoid projects that endanger the community or are posed by the community. We don't want anything in the path of a lava flow or other natural disasters. We don't want projects that say they are environmentally friendly, and that doesn't really pencil out. We probably do not want huge projects that basically take over multiple lots in a community. These are a little scattered, sorry. I kind of wonder how HELCO can plan for the future, not knowing how some of these CBRE projects will perform or even if they will survive. That's very difficult. HELCO has a difficult time. It's got to keep its investors happy, and it also has to keep the PUC happy in a very complex energy future. And I realize that's difficult. Also, as Shannon mentioned, there's a lot of people going off grid, leaving a diminishing number of people to cover costs. And is there any alternative to just raising rates? I hope PUC will favor projects that have large amounts of storage and maybe non-battery storage, like pumped hydro. There's things with salt and so forth. And I think the planning needs to be somehow very adaptable because Hawaii Island is huge and has so many different climate zones, widely scattered locations, different communities with different interests, different amount of accessibility and power needs. I also think the bond issue is very important. I'm remembering True Geothermal, where they walked away and the state had to pay the taxpayers to cap the well. I wonder what safeguards there will be for subscribers if a project doesn't perform well. And last but not least, I hope the projects will be very mindful of cultural concerns and respectful and taking lessons from the culture here. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Harden. Next, we have Ron Riley.
Yeah, hi. Thank you for taking my my comment here, Chair Griffin. I really appreciate the fact that the PUC is able to be open to many around the state and around the island, thanks to the technology here. Perhaps not always glitch-free, but nevertheless, huge improvement. So thank you. Also want to acknowledge Henry Curtis and his publicity of this meeting in Ililani media, which is what brought me here this evening. In the realm of compliment, I just want to also add that HELCO has been really outstanding in my view with two personal solar projects. One several years ago when we still had net energy metering, and I certainly wish that would come back. And more recently, PV with battery storage and under a time of use program. Very good. And regarding this particular community-based renewable energy, you know, mostly I'm here to learn. And I would also say I saw a wonderful program that involved Hawaiian Electric and their fabulous pumped hydro storage. And we got plenty of elevation here. And if that's possible, you know, I'd give that 2 thumbs up for sure. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Riley. Next up is Nathaniel Kinney. I take the way you're representing Hawaii Regional Council of Carpenters this evening.
Yes, Chair, I am.
Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate, this is a extremely enlightening presentation, and I appreciate the commission's time and all the guests that have showed up. And our kind of concerns regarding community solar is that we believe that the request for proposals for these CBRE projects include local hire provisions that will strengthen Hawaii County's economy and support the island's local workforce. We believe there's several items that should be required. for the contractors that actually perform these projects. One is a local hire provision in order to help with just not only the counties, but the state's economic recovery. We believe that the developers for these projects should give preference to contractors who hire the local workforce. Obviously, this means creating construction jobs for people in Hawaii County, but also helping to circulate money in the state's economy. We believe that the contractors and developers should be required to pay a living wage to laborers and mechanics. And obviously, paying a living wage provides economic and personal security to the citizens of Hawaii County, especially in these, in these really tough times with COVID. I mean, construction is one of the only things that's going on right now. I mean, and again, it's about circulating money in the state's economy. And another aspect that we think could be better served if we highlighted them in the request for proposals is, some sort of contractor certification for the people who do this work, and that they certify with the Department of Labor and Industrial Relations that they provide their workers with health and welfare coverage plans for their employees that include benefits of medical, dental, vision, and life insurance, not just for their eligible employees, but their spouses or domestic partners and dependents. Participation in state-approved apprenticeship programs, whether or not these contractors give paid time off for sick days, vacations, or holidays, and whether or not contractors are paying sufficient retirement savings plans so that it ensures that workers can retire in dignity. We also believe that there should be some sort of clause emphasizing that contractors that have a history of illegal or fraudulent or grossly negligent business practices be not allowed to work on these types of projects. One of the biggest things I think that I covered earlier is about, an apprenticeship program. In this transition from fossil to green sustainable energy, this is really this pivot to sustainable energy also could provide not just a job, but a career path for a lot of the young people, as well as, the workforce that are looking to better themselves and get a better wage and provide medical coverage for their families. And it's not just a job, it's a career. And a state approved apprenticeship programs do that. They help take somebody from who knows nothing and turns them into a journeyman, and now they can provide for their family. And so these are kind of the benefits that we think, community benefits that should come from community solar. And we can kill two birds with one stone by building equitable green energy and training the local workforce and making sure that they have a place in the new economy and can provide for themselves. And so these are some of the things that we think should be put in the RFPs. And we've seen other groups have come forward in other solar projects, and they went through a contested case hearing or evidentiary hearings. And rather than go through really all of that back and forth, I think it'd be just so much easier if these requirements were put in on the front end, and that way we have responsible developers and responsible contractors who then hire the local workers to do what they're supposed to be doing. And that kind of, I think, kind of encapsulates our concerns, but also our interest in these things, and we're ready to provide any help or guidance necessary to achieve those goals. Thank you.
Thank you for being here this evening, Mr. Kinney, offering those perspectives. Next, we had a request in the chat. Chris Delaney from Pacific Resource Partnership. Hopefully I'm pronouncing it correct.
Yes, Chris Delaney, Pacific Resource Partnership.
Sorry.
Oh, no problem, no problem. So yes, I would like to echo what Nathaniel just said. I think this phase 2 community based renewable energy procurement policies. So require the request for proposals to include local hire provisions that will strengthen Hawaii's economy and support the state's local workforce with a living wage. I'm not going to go into any detail because I think Nat covered a lot of it. But basically it's, the RFP should have specific provisions related to local hire, prevailing wage requirements for, the workforce that are building these projects so they can, provide for their families, continue to live in Hawaii, keep up with the high cost of living. And also the contractor certification is very important, as Nat stated. And lastly, of course, the state approved apprenticeship program. This will help to guarantee that highly skilled and competent workforce are building these types of projects. And also it supports the long-term training, these long-term training programs that allow job seekers to learn specialized skills in the renewable energy field. So I'll just keep my comment short, and thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you as well. Do we have anyone else here on the WebEx wishing to speak? After that, we'll turn to the phones. Looking around, don't see anyone. Okay. We'll first turn to Mr. Akamine. I think you're on line 6.
Yep. Am I coming through?
Yep.
Cool. So I spent a lot of my childhood going to work with my parents. My father worked at Border Water Supply as a construction manager, accountant for the construction group there. They, of course, built reservoirs, worked on trenching, pipeline, and water stuff. And on the flip side of it, my mother worked as a business administrator for a school, a DOE school. They had me do forensic accounting at their office, the works, right? They were accountants. They were very good at their jobs, and they made magical waves of their pens and adding machines and somehow, figured out how to make it work. I spent a long time kind of looking at all the problems that you guys just listed just now. One of it, economical side. So I get that side of it. And so there's a lot of people who need support. They're going to jobs, and they're not able to necessarily have the time set aside to be able to DIY their own off-grid house, right? So for those, I have this following solution. I'm not sure if everyone on the call or in this meeting is familiar, but photovoltaics were developed for space, right? They were the things that we stuck on all the satellites that we sent out into the universe. Now, space has two conditions that are very unique to it. One is it's bombarded by hard radiation from the sun. And number two, the environment is quite static unless you're turning the way that the panel is facing. Unlike on Earth, where both conditions are constantly changing. So some of the premature failures of panels can include overvoltage or undervoltage and overcurrent and undercurrent. And those fluctuations cause massive burnouts for the panels themselves. So maybe a little bit of, human intervention and smart planning for the environment that the panels exist in. And when I mean environment, I mean the conditions which they collect their energy from. So with that preface, I'd like to pitch that, for the solar farms, I'm not sure why it can't be rotating on 3 axes, right? It would shade some parts of the ground cover, which I suggest to be, something like a zoysia or something similar to like golf courses, like that type of grass to keep the dust down so that you don't have to constantly worry about the panel getting dirty and dropping your efficiencies. Secondly, why don't they just plant crops that are shade tolerant or that need shaded environments anyway? The Big Island specializes in making use of unique, very niche environments. I've seen guys at the Hamakua farms growing mushrooms in a big metal box with solar panels on the roof, but they still haven't figured out that they could make that more efficient. And so now's the second solution. All these off-grid facilities that don't have water plumbing like we are fortunate enough and blessed with here on Oahu with my father's, I guess, legacy that he gave to me. Yeah, we have the luxury of having all this underground piping everywhere and reservoir tanks built everywhere. And it strikes me as kind of silly that, you know, each person builds their own reservoir tank on their property, generally out of concrete or galvanized steel. Or if you take my suggestion of building it out of a food grade material that is reflective, because if you put, say, an umbrella stand for the PV panels, which I suggest be reclaimed and somehow clean, because most of these panels don't need complete replacement and thrown into the garbage can. All they really need is a pressure washing, a cleaning with maybe hydrofluoric or hydrochloric acid. This is coming from experience of working at Northrop Grumman in facilities where we would prep and clean things for space flight, which has to be absolutely zero dust. So anyway, if you were to use that umbrella type stand and mount the reclaimed panels for, you know, because right now we're ripping down the old farms already. So instead of just shipping that stuff off to the mainland and have it thrown wherever they're going to throw it, you know, small businesses can crop up and just specialize in washing panels. Anyway, the acid that I mentioned can be neutralized very easily, and it can be a non-toxic process. You could actually use Dawn soap to degrease the panels, or maybe a little bit something that's, you know, more eco-friendly. But the point is that most panels just need to be reclaimed by cleaning it, and most panels fail through the aforementioned means. But anyway, so what I'm suggesting to you is to build a reflector dish for these panels out of the water collection tanks on these very remote locations, right? Because you don't want to run 10 miles of double lot cable just for one guy to have feedback to the grid for CBRE.
Mr. Giacomin, if I could, sorry to interject here, but if we could please summarize comments focused on the particular RFPs. I do want to offer that we are always open to taking detailed comments through the PUC email. I would suggest that you offer a lot of these ideas, noting the docket number 2015-0389, and maybe if to give other people a chance on the phone, if we could,
sure thing,
please summarize kind of your what I hear, you know, some ideas to address into life some of the materials.
So the key, yeah, sure. The key takeaway that I want that those two solutions that I just pitched will remedy. So the large scale farms, you can still grow food on those lands. It's just a matter of finding the niche crops that will do well there and having the staff and do a really good job of making sure none of them will get electrocuted, which is not impossible. It's just more costly, unfortunately. But you could offset that by having croplands reproduce and stop fighting very expensive legal battles.
If you could just please summarize the
second solution. The second solution of the umbrella, satellite dish, whatever I just depicted to you, made out of, you know, personal water collection tanks that they already build themselves anyway.
Mr. Giacomin, I've asked you twice now to summarize.
Mounting for the
I don't want to do this. I don't want to mute this. If you could just please summarize and close.
So those are just possible innovations that I was handcuffed in my prior employment experiences from pitching, and those came from, yeah.
Mr. Giacomin, thank you. I just want to reiterate, we have we have means, channels, you have detailed recommendations. You can look at the PUC website. Our email is puc.comments@hawaii.gov. Note the docket number 2015-03.
So those, you could even set up like at the base yard, for example.
We're gonna have to move to someone else.
Like assembly plant.
Sorry. No, sorry. Sorry. Okay. We have other members here tonight on the phone wishing to speak.
I'm on video, if I'm allowed to speak.
Yes. Sorry,
Hi.
this,
My name's Annie Bosted. Good evening, Chairman Griffith and commissioners and my fellow Hawaiians. Mahalo nui for allowing me to speak tonight. I particularly welcome the chance to talk about the CBRE program and how it's viewed by many on the Big Island. My husband and I are very much in favor of the Net Energy Meter, the NEM program, and we in fact participated in it. It was simple and easy to understand and easy to implement. The CBRE, by contrast, seems too bogged down in details, many of which are vague. The NEM plan was simple. It could be worked out on a cocktail napkin. In our case, we paid $21,000 for the system. We got back $7,000 as an investment tax credit on our federal taxes, another $7,000 on our state taxes, and we paid no utility bills for 20 years. Personally, I would very much like to see the NEM program reinstated in some form. It was popular and resulted in a large amount of renewable energy coming online relatively quickly. For us, getting the tax credits was the most lucrative part. But I understand that CBRE investors do not get the tax credits. If that is so, it would appear that the best incentives to join the program have been removed. It also begs the question, who does get them? I get it that the legislature back in 2015 wanted the CBRE to be an alternative for customers who could not participate in the NEM program. I understand that the CBRE has had a slow start, only 2 or 3 projects in 6 years. I understand that the legislature wanted to include those who were unable to join the NEM due to their poor solar resources or did not own their dwelling. Yet, in my mind, the fact that these types of customers have not joined the CBRE in the same droves that the NEM attracted seems to indicate that CBRE may not be wanted. Perhaps I can give a possible reason. Here on the Big Island, the low and moderate income people, the LMIs, will not benefit from reductions to their electric bills for the very simple reason that they do not have electric bills. The low to moderate income people in our town of Ocean View are not on the grid. They can't afford it. They have their own homemade systems, many of which are powered by propane. Propane, I'm told, is half the cost of electricity. In this way, they earn themselves a 50% discount over Helco's charges. So I'd say that here, the CBRE program is moot. Perhaps CBRE's time has come and gone. It clearly has not filled the niche that the hugely popular NEM program left when it was discontinued in 2015. If the legislature and the PUC and the utilities are serious about helping the poor, they must address the systemic high cost of electricity for the island, not these kinds of programs that are band-aids. I would suggest that instead of complicated CBRE schemes to mitigate the high cost of power, only projects that can produce cheap power should be allowed to be built. In round numbers, wind costs about 11 cents a kilowatt hour, and solar with batteries is also about 10 cents a kilowatt hour. Let's hold that line. No more FIT projects that will cost ratepayers nearly 24 cents a kilowatt hour. No Hohanua that will cost about 24 cents a kilowatt hour.
Ms. Bosted, I started the meeting by saying there were certain topics, active dockets before the commission that we're not able to talk about.
Okay.
You just talked about 2. So.
Okay, so
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, that would be our ask. Cheap, cheap, cheap. I'd now like to turn to location. A few weeks ago, I listened with interest to the meeting you had with residents from Oahu. There, those living on the west felt that they were carrying the burden of hosting wind and solar farms to benefit those living on the east side. We on the Big Island also have good solar resources on the west side and poor sunshine on the east side. We also have excellent wind resources at the most southerly tip and the most northerly tip of the Big Island. Yet, Because we have more space, which is why it's the Big Island, and far fewer people, we don't share the same concerns as us versus them as Oahu has. We have plenty of sunny space for solar and lots of wide open windy space for wind farms. However, we still have NIMBY issues. I'm not sure if I can say this, but because of the many housing subdivisions on the Big Island, stop me if I'm out of line, are many of the big housing subdivisions on the Big Island are in the agricultural district, in spite of the fact that they're obviously rural and residential. So in other words, they're residential, people live there, but they're classified ag. This means that legally, developers can build solar farms in residential areas in and amongst existing and future homes.
Sorry, I am going to have to stop you again.
Okay.
Look, we came to talk about the CBRE program, get feedback.
Okay.
We understand the variety of issues on the island, but this is not the right forum or venue.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's see. Okay, another reason to spread the load evenly throughout the island is the idea that a diversity of locations would protect against widespread power outages in the event of a severe storm. I should again point out that a big difference between the Big Island and other islands. We are big. When storms hit our island, they may wreak havoc in the 30 miles or so closest to where they make landfall, but the effects are quickly dissipated by our two 13,000-foot peaks. We have had storms where one end of the island might get 20 inches of rain, while the other end does not get a drop. So I would suggest that power generator plants should be mostly located in the northwest corner to minimize loss of sunshine in a storm. However, I would say that the biggest cause of outages on the Big Island is not so much rain and storms as fallen trees that break lines and cut off large communities from the grid. In those instances, the storm itself is not keeping power off the grid due to no solar generation, but rather physically cutting communities from the grid, in which case, no matter how much power is on the grid, those communities isolated by downed trees will lose power. Another consideration is that the heavy winds associated with most storms would drive windmills to produce more energy than the usual trades produce. In that instance, it would be a case of win some, lose some. Accordingly, I would advocate enlarging existing wind farms. I'm largely in favor of HELCO identifying potential solar sites and doing early community outreach to sense if community opposition to a particular site is likely. Again, stay away from homes. Windmills should be built only where wind is the strongest and where, consequently, most people do not care to live. I'm also dead against locating substations near homes, schools, hospitals, and most facilities frequented by the general public. However, I would welcome seeing parking lots shaded with solar panels, provided the costs can be kept down. Most importantly, they would need to be committed to keeping the ratepayers' bills as low as possible, and of course, wean us from burning diesel. Chairman Griffin and Commissioners, I close with thanking you and your staff for this golden opportunity to speak truth about power. Good night and aloha.
Thank you, Ms. Boston. Okay. Do we have any other people on the WebEx wishing to speak? Not seeing or hearing any others on the
Chair?
phone?
Chair, this is Jeffrey Alcamini again. Some of the concerns that I'm sorry, I forgot her name, but the speaker who just spoke.
Mr.
So the high
Alcamini.
wind conditions.
Mr. Alcamini. Sorry. What I said, we've offered a avenue to provide detailed feedback. You can watch the video if you want to send. You just want to send an email in with comments.
Those conditions are laughable.
Okay, Mr. Alcamini,
The technology is there.
We're not here to debate the other speakers. Okay, sorry, I'm gonna have to do this again. Okay. Any other speakers from the phone? Oh, I see, Deborah Ward, saw you chimed in here. Wait. I think you need to unmute yourself.
Good evening, Chair Griffin. Thank you so, and committee members and HECO representatives. Thank you so much for the opportunity to give our input. About 15 people contributed to the decisions and suggestions by Shannon Matson, and I would like to acknowledge a lot of Sierra Club members who gave their time and energy to thinking about these ideas. And I'd really like to thank all of you for spending the time this evening to listen to the community. We find this is very, very refreshing and heartwarming, and we're very grateful to you for spending the time with us. Thank you so much.
Just wanted to clarify one thing for the umbrella idea. It's a sun parallel.
Chair, you're muted. We can't hear you.
Sorry. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. As we said, this is a novel format. We're doing our best to manage it. I appreciate all of everyone's patience, your willingness to be here, offer your perspectives. We will, as I said, we can take comments on through our website or through email onto our website. You can find that information at the commission. Please email us. Mr. Wallerstein is the attorney for this docket. Please contact him. Thank you all for your participation this evening. Go home, be with your families, with your friends, and thank you all.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all. Thank
you.
you.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you.